This episode of the Nerdball Podcast is sponsored by Fort Meigs CrossFit. Fort Meigs CrossFit, I say it every week, and I feel dumb saying it, but I can't help but thank them enough. This office has been great. They let me use their space. Now I have 2 camera angles, so let me know what you all think about that coming up on this episode. But they've been a great partner, and I'm hoping, once softball moves off of Sundays, I'm going to switch my recording schedule around, so seeing if I can start taking some classes here. I haven't been able to do it just time-wise, but I'm going to start taking classes and hopefully, report back on how I feel, and hopefully it's good. If I start not making episodes, then we got an issue. So, thanks to them as always. This is a great episode. My guest today has been a friend of mine for a long time. He's a new football coach at Eastwood High School. We get into a lot of stuff, but like I said a couple weeks ago, I'm trying to shorten these interviews so much where I forgot to do them last week. So, but I'm excited for you all to listen. It was a great conversation. So without further ado, here's my guest.
I'm Sam Cotterman, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
All right. Awesome, Sam. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
At first I looked at the microphone and I go, I think you're a little too far away, but then I forgot your voice projects pretty good. You've been coaching a long time.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Heard that. Especially in the gym.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It bounces off. There's like four Sams in here.
Yeah.
Well, again, thanks for coming on here. We've known each other for a long time. I actually had a request for you to come on. I just never made it work. Juan Liang emailed the podcast and asked, he's like, I think Coach Cotterman would be a good person to have on.
Who did?
So, Juan Liang.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I talk about him often.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen him in forever.
Yeah, he emailed and actually asked him if he wanted to come on too, but he was busy with like finals at the time or something.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously we've known each other through coaching, and now we will get into it, but now you're the new head coach at Eastwood football, which is awesome, man. I'm so excited for you because I know this. We talk a lot about it through the years about wanting to be head. Both of us wanted to be head coach.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're able to do it. Was there ever a time where you're like, man, I don't think this is ever going to happen? Not even at Eastwood, but just in general.
No, I guess I never really thought that. People around me very supportive. Just said, when the time's right, it'll come. And I kind of told myself that too. Through the past couple of years, I really feel like everything's going to happen for a reason. And if it happens, that's what God wants me to do. If it doesn't, then it's okay. I was very happy at Perrysburg, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I was happy with that. But if the opportunity became to be a head coach again, I'd be excited for it. And yeah, and this all happened sudden, too. I mean, it was like, I didn't even think, I was making jokes around. I'm like, I don't think they even want to talk to me because I never even I haven't heard anything. And then, it just all happened fast.
That's cool, man. That's cool. But like I said, we'll get on all into it. The first thing I do want to ask is, I ask it to everybody, is what is something you've been nerding out about lately? Something you're super into, it's a hobby, something you've been doing a long time or just started, books, cooking, anything, something that kind of gets your mind away. You can kind of escape and just do this thing for whatever.
I can't really say anything new because after taking this position, my life's been really focused on that.
Yeah.
Other than coaching my daughter's t-ball team,
okay.
There's a new thing for me that we just had our first game yesterday, and that was an eye-opener.
So when I started coaching, they didn't have t-ball.
Yeah.
So this is new to me. Like I did coach pitch, but even that's just like, all right, you got to learn stuff like every day. You're like, all right, well, I can't do that anymore. I should do this.
Well, then we have our practices in April, and we had one practice.
Yeah.
We had one that I moved up, but I didn't have all of the app that they wanted us to use. Mm-hmm. So I sent it over the website, and it didn't work, so nobody got it. So I think I had like 2 people show up. So we had one full practice, and So I'm not saying it would have been much better, but I think it would have been a little more organized.
Now, were you asked to do it? Because I know this has happened before where like, hey, we need another coach.
Well, my wife said something to me that, hey, they need coaches. Would you want to coach? And I said, oh, yeah, sure. Why not? And then so.
And then you're like, oh, we need a head coach.
Well, so then the first game, and I'm like, even I have an assistant coach, and I'm like, I don't know if there's any way 2 people could do this. Like, you almost need someone at least, in the bases or at least at first and third to like, hey, this time run that way. Like, see the person down there, go run to them after you hit the ball.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Hey, point to where you're going, and they'll point in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then they'll hit the ball and run in the other direction. So.
They get excited, man.
Yeah, they're definitely excited.
That's the good thing, though, about that. And even T-ball and coach pitch is like, well, we're just getting the kids out here, learning some stuff every once in a while. If someone can throw it, make a good throw or stop the ball with their glove and not their body,
I'm watching these guys now, and then I'm asking my brother, I'm like, so you guys actually pitch to the kids? Because my nephew's in the coach's pitch.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, wow, that's awesome that they have grown that far in the past year or two that they can do that because, we're struggling to hit the tee.
Yeah.
But, that's awesome.
The younger groups are the ones that you can notice change really fast because I remember when Mateo and Lillian, they both did coach pitch. But, like, at the beginning of the season, there's, like, 2 kids that can hit. But then at the end of the season, at least everyone's getting 1 hit, And it's so I like seeing that part of it.
That's awesome, though. I mean, heck, that's why we coach, right?
Yeah.
To see that progress made. And that's fun. That'll be fun to see with these guys.
Because there is such big things because we're also used to coaching high school kids. Yeah. And where you're trying to change, like, hey, you got to move 6 inches this way, and then even when they finally get that kind of stuff, you're like, yes, we've been telling you for weeks now,
Right. Yeah.
But it's such tiny things because they're good athletes, right?
Yeah.
So they can do all those other things. But the level of excitement doesn't change with what you're teaching them,
right?
So T-ball is new for you. You even just said before we started that was the first time you've been at Municipal.
Yeah.
All the fields.
Yep. I've ran by it many times. So I used to take runs from the HAC. But, first time I'd actually been in there or at a field.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. Chris Oros is the one who like takes care of the fields.
Really?
Yeah,
Cool.
He's been doing it for a long time. He's really good. Actually, I was waiting for a text from him or somebody else to say our fields are good or not for today. So I'm crossing my fingers. It's been so rainy and cold, and everything just gets canceled. You had one practice, So we're trying to get these things in.
Well, I do have something else I'll tell you that maybe you don't even know about me, but something I would say I nerd out about, but it's not new. Probably ever since I was in college.
Okay.
I don't know how many people know about me, but so when more in the winter, I enjoy baking.
Oh yeah.
So
I didn't know that. Yeah.
So when things are a little slower, especially over the holidays, I'll grab an adult beverage and bake some cookies.
Yeah.
Like I love snickerdoodles.
Oh, those are good.
So I know looking at me, you can tell I like cookies, but not many people know that I enjoy baking.
That's cool, man. What's besides? Is it just like cookies, or do you do cakes?
Yeah, no, just cookies.
Yeah,
I'm not a big cake guy.
Okay.
I like brownies, but that's throw up some eggs and stuff in. I don't know. It's time, it just takes some time and putting all this stuff together, and my kids love to help now. Yeah. But I did it even when I was in college. I'd go home and bake some snickerdoodles or something. And
you bake 2 dozen. You're like, who are these for? Me?
Yep. Yeah. Well, when COVID hit, I was really, because we were home and the holidays, and I would sit there and bake cookies, and my brother gets so mad because I'd be like, hey, cookie delivery. So I'd go over and drop cookies off, and some other friends I'd drive around and drop off cookies. But it was funny.
I can imagine college, high school, or a college student, Sam, like in his apartment, and you're like, hey, what are you doing? There's like 1,000 football players over there trying to get cookies.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would never have all this stuff. I would go home and do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm going to use all your ingredients from my parents, but I'll leave you some cookies, so it's okay.
Oh, that's odd. Does your mom or dad cook or bake? Is this something you picked up
my
from them?
mom does in the holidays, and she did when we were younger, but, she was kind of backwards. She works full time now, so she's
really?
like, when we were younger, she was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was always working, but she would bake. But now she works a lot now that we're gone. So
wow, that's funny. I guess you get to a point where, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom, you get to a point where well, I'm still at stay-at-home, but my kids aren't here.
Yep.
The reason I'm here, the reason I'm home is gone.
Yeah, my dad's a truck driver, so he's gone a lot, and so so she works at the Wood County Hospital. So.
Okay, all right. Wow. Yeah. My mom, I said it before, she's going to work until the day she dies. Like she has to be doing something, moving around, doing things. My dad always says when she gets home, like she's like a robot, takes her batteries out, she just falls asleep.
Yeah. My parents would probably be the same.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad is a professional retiree, so he's really good
He's got it down.
Yeah.
I wish my dad would, but no, I think he's going to.
Keep going?
Yep.
All right. I know you went to Elmwood. We actually had the same head football coach when we were in high school. He came over to Perrysburg, Coach Frank. Did you grow up out there your whole life?
Oh, yeah. Well, I grew up in Cygnet. So,
okay.
Elmwood's, a bunch of small towns in the country put together. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in Cygnet.
Okay.
And then, but yeah, I grew up there my entire life.
Do you guys like on a farm or anything, or just have big property, or just a house?
No, we had just a small house in Cygnet.
Yeah.
A lot of our friends had farms. We would go and bale hay in the summer.
Okay.
Sometimes leave football workouts and then go bale hay.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, funny story. When I got this job and I went to the Athletic Boosters website, and it would be the brother-in-law or the uncle of a guy I used to bale hay for. He lives in Eastwood, and he was at this raffle. So he came up and we were sharing stories about back in the day when I used to bale hay with this guy.
Yeah.
So when we baled hay with the son, it was always kind of a little more fun, lighthearted. Maybe we didn't work as hard.
Sure.
But then Dad would show up and get on our tail like, this ain't enough bales, and
well, yeah, because it always, whenever some work is getting done, but it's never enough when there's not an adult there.
Yeah. And, we were more doing it for the workout, too. So it was like, come on, man, we're tired. But, no, it was a great workout.
Wow, that's cool. Did you have? I know you have a twin, and you have two brothers actually, right?
Yep.
And is that the only siblings you have?
I have a sister too.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Younger sister.
Right.
So
Are
Steve
they all...
and I are the twins are the oldest.
Okay.
And then my sister, and then a little brother.
Okay. And everyone around here still?
Yeah. Yep. My sister lives in Bowling Green with her husband, and my twin lives here in Perrysburg.
Yeah.
We've never been able to get too far apart. And other than when he lived in Columbus for a while. And then my little brother is living down between like Findlay, Ottawa.
Okay. All right. When you were growing up, did you get along with Steve? Steve's your twin. Did you get along with him?
Yeah. Probably not as close as we probably fought a little bit. We fought as kids.
Yeah.
And then, always had those battles. But it was kind of one of those things where it's okay for me to do it, but nobody else is allowed to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll rag on him or I'll give him a hard time, but nobody else can. But I think that probably went both ways.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And as I know, because I know you guys have a really good relationship now.
Yeah.
And as you get older, I think that worked with my siblings too. Like as we got older, it was just you're adults and you can you have adult conversations and you realize like, oh, that's just kid stuff, you know. So
yeah, when he gets frustrated with me and calls me an idiot, or I do the same thing to him, it's like, all right, we've already been down that road, and we can as adults take it a little better than I guess in my teen years when he called, and then I was like, what'd you say? You want to go out and fight? You're
like, I get it. We're both idiots. Now let's figure out this problem.
Right.
Did you play when you were little? Did you play other sports? I was assuming you played football most of your life and wrestled. I know that, but did you do any other things?
Yeah, well, growing up in at Elmwood and living in Cygnet, obviously we would get everybody in Cygnet, which not a huge town, but we get everybody we could together and go play football. But it was mainly baseball, and then we would go up and play basketball. But organized wise, it was really only baseball, and we would travel around, but we couldn't start football until we were in junior high.
Okay.
So, we would, at our camp, in the summer camp, we would go to the youth camp where we had flag football. Games at the end of camp. But, yeah, it was really that mentally, when you loved sports, like when you got to junior high, it was like, all right, here we go. 7th grade, we get into organized sports and we can start playing together, But, yeah, we played everything. We go down and play basketball.
Yeah.
Go over and play softball, baseball, whatever we could.
In high school, was it just football and wrestling for you?
I did track for a couple of years.
Okay.
Never really got it down. So I was, I stayed the same for a couple of years. I was throwing like 40s. But then a couple guys got better. And because I would mainly just lift. It was pretty structured for us. They just because we were football players at heart, so they'd be like, "Hey, go lift and then go throw a couple." You know. But by the time I was a senior, I got to the point where they had two guys that were Steve. My brother was better than me, and then another guy that was really good. So I was like, I don't need.
Yeah.
They don't need me. So yeah.
I love shot and disc, and I've talked about that before. So I like it, and it is one of those things where if you're not, I mean, yes, you should probably lift and do all that stuff too, but if you're not working on technique,
right?
You know, like we talked about at the beginning, like all these little adjustments, then you aren't gonna.
Which is what I didn't do.
Yeah,
you know, I just went out and threw the thing. I never really learned the technique, and you know, I probably could have. I mean, obviously with my size, probably been pretty good at it. I just didn't. Yeah,
well, I mean, like you said, you had other things in mind that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Was wrestling a staple for you too? Like when you were younger, or was that something as you got older?
No, actually, I feel like I was a bit of a baby when I was a kid. You know, it was tough, and I think it took me a little bit to mature, and I was kind of a baby about it. Steve was much better at it than I was, and then as I got, you know, I started to mature. Believe it or not, so. I think it was my 7th grade year I went out for basketball.
Okay.
And then my 8th grade year I wrestled. And then my freshman year I didn't even wrestle. I actually was on the bowling team.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then the wrestling coach talked me into coming back out my sophomore year.
Okay.
And then those years through my sophomore to my senior year, I really saw what wrestling had done for me, not only transforming my body, because that was big, but if you would have saw me my freshman, sophomore year to my junior and senior year, I was a much different athlete, and I think that wrestling, I mean, did that for me, not to mention the hand fighting and the leverage type stuff that wrestling helped with, but I was a much better shape and a much better football player being a wrestler. So I think that's why I love wrestling so much, because I see what it does for, you know, other sports.
Well, it's no secret that, you know, you were the head football coach at Perrysburg, and we've always had, regardless of the size of our offensive line, we've always had good offensive linemen, because you understand, like you said, even though they're not wrestlers themselves, you understand what that takes, just being a coach and saying like, hey, do this or do it like this or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and that's what I told I've told people before, when I swear I don't remember the size of the guys, but when I first got to Perrysburg in 2007, we didn't have the biggest guys. I want to say only one of them might have been over 200 pounds, but those dudes were tough, you know. And I'll never forget Justin Forgash. They called him Caveman because he had long hair, but, you know, he would constantly come out of the game like, "What are you doing?" And he had blood like dripping down like his eyes and stuff. Wow. Because he just put his nose into somebody, you know, and he was 160 pounds, I think. But we went to that was the first year we had went to the Division I state playoffs. We were D1 that year, and they only took top 8, not like now when they take everybody.
Yeah.
But and we were a pretty good squad. Really not athletically as much as just tough. We had a tough group, and you know, I think that's what Coach Kriegel had changed, but. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, and that can, just having some level of toughness, you know, will elevate those kind of athletes to, not necessarily, you can't put them side by side with like, these guys are really skilled, but it raises them up enough to where they can compete with those kind of people. Yeah. So I'll go back to high school. I know you went to University of Findlay to play football. How was your recruiting process, or what was that like when you were in high school? I started getting letters and stuff from schools my sophomore year, and at the time, being a kid from, you know, Elmwood or Cygnet, Ohio, I was like, holy moly, I got this note from Nebraska that wants, you know, just saying hello, and then they started to come as you go through, and I was getting a ton, and you know, schools would stop by and say hello, and I just think to get a visual of you and look at you and stuff, and so I can't remember a whole lot, but I just remember being invited to camps and stuff, and Coach Frank would take us. We went to Michigan, and you know, a beautiful one. We went to West Point, and that was beautiful. That was an overnight trip where we stayed down there, Steve and I both, and don't talk to Steve about that, because he, you know, they did the whole thing where, you know, they put your number and name up on the big screen, and from Cygnet, Ohio, and but yeah, when it was all said and done, I was kind of a homebody. I guess I've been around Northwest Ohio my entire life.
Yeah. Wasn't Steve going to go there?
Oh, he was all set.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, he was all set, and I can't remember. I think it was just me, not like maybe he wanted to stick around with me or what. He was dead set on it, and but I don't know. I just been around my entire life and never thought, how is it going to be living in New York? How many games are family, our parents going to be able to make?
Yeah,
and so Dan Simmerl from Findlay had called and said, you know what? If you can make it work at Findlay, I'll go to Findlay. So and Steve followed me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I remember visiting Findlay. This was probably in 2002 or 2003, and it went in the weight room. I'm like, this is a college weight room. Like,
yeah.
I mean, which probably Coach Frank would probably laugh at because I never went to weightlifting.
Yeah.
I was not. That was just I just wasn't into it, and. But going in there, I'm like, man, this is weird, But I almost went to Findlay too. I even put a deposit down and everything to go there, and then I just decided not to do it.
And one thing that I love about it is I think me coming from Elmwood might have helped too because we had a small weight room, but for me, it was all we had, and it was nice, because we would work our butt off in there.
Yeah.
So when I got to Findlay and saw theirs, though it wasn't that big, but it was still a step up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And between Cal Dienst and Chad Wagner, I mean, obviously they did a great job, because we were always repping out, strong dudes and athletic guys. So, it always worked. And then now I see it now, and it's like, oh, man, this is awesome. And it just, as everything else, just continues to improve.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, you got to feel good when your program, the program you're a part of is progressing and getting things better and getting better athletes because of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And you know how that goes with the weight room.
Oh, yeah. Did you just play football or did you wrestle there?
I just played football.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Steve, after I think he had his second lease on life because after recovering from cancer, he went out for wrestling too. So it'd be like we get done with a 6 a.m. football workout, and then he'd be going to wrestling practice, or he'd be the wrestlers at some point, I can't remember when it was, during their off-season workouts would be running by like our house where we lived at, our apartment. And, so I'd be coming down, and there goes Steve in the morning running. Like, see, I'm going to class or weight room, wherever I was going. But, he was doubling it up.
He's an animal, though. That dude, I always think it was so perfect when you were coaching offensive line and he was coaching defensive line, how like perfectly fit your mindsets, both of you.
And still today, I think about that. The different. I mean, no wonder he was a better defensive player than I was, and he was a great offensive player too. But when it comes into schemes and stuff, and in the wing T when we were in high school, it's like, hey, you're gonna go knock that guy over.
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy. Whereas in college, it was more fun for me because it was like, different things could happen. So it's like, hey, if this gap is uncovered, you're going to work with this guy up to this gap. And if this linebacker does this and this, it could change what you do. So there's a lot more thinking involved where I think I'm a little better at than Steve-O, whereas Steve is aggressive. And he wants an assignment and he wants to go get it. And that's why we used to make fun of the guys in college, the linemen, because we're like, you guys are just like dogs. Go chase after the ball. Go get the ball. Go get the ball. We used to tell her, that was funny.
That was exactly like my older brother and myself. Like, same thing. I like being able to think about what I have to do. I like being able to also, like, I know what the defense is doing. Like, they're going to try to get the ball, and, like, I know I have to stop them and by moving them this or that way or whatever, But my brother was just pin his ears back and just go. Like, it doesn't matter. And that was perfect for him because he had ADD, so he couldn't, like, get these plays down, and you couldn't do all this stuff. So
process
go on,
all
yes.
that.
So just go there and be quick,
Yep.
But I always like that's such the. Both of you were the epitome of being what line you coach, because it fit perfect, And sometimes those guys that play defense can't coach it because they are too much like, just go. I don't understand how to say it, just do it, But he was really good at those details too, So it was cool to see you guys, like, because you're right, you guys did do your fair share of making fun of each other, So that was fun too.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you that. I don't know if I ever told you this story, but in college, there was a time when he. So I was just recovering from knee surgery, so I was coming back, and they were doing one-on-ones, and I was the guard and he was the nose guard, so we battled all the time. But he, so we did it was pass protection one-on-ones. So honestly, he whooped me. Like, I went to set, he did something, I don't remember, but he kicked my butt. And I'm like, heck with that. Get your butt back up here.
Yeah.
So right off the snap of the ball, I just clubbed the back of his helmet and knocked his face into the ground. And then I put my knee in the back of his helmet.
Yeah.
He's trying to get up, and I wouldn't let him up. So when I finally let him up, I just let him up and walked away.
Yeah.
And he took his helmet off and threw it at me. And I didn't see it. I only saw it pass me, but it went right by my knee that I had just had surgery on.
Yeah.
But it was funny because they videoed it. So we had the end zone cam. And out of everything that happened, they were more angry that his helmet had bounced off of the end zone camera. Like the leg of it, as it went up. So, but yeah, they had the whole thing on film, so we were able to watch that. That was interesting.
It's got to be cool to be able to. Obviously, when we talk, he's not just your brother; he's your twin. But to be able to like do all these things together, and obviously you have to have a good relationship in order to do that. Otherwise, he went to West Point and you would have came to Findlay, right?
Yeah, things would have been a lot different.
Yeah, so it's cool to always be like. I know last summer my little sister helped me coach softball. Like it's just like a cool thing to have family like want to do what you want to do.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And you guys had that for your whole life,
yep,
right?
Yeah, I mean, being twins and the same size, even with wrestling, we were drill partners. So if you ever talk to Dave Lee at Elmwood, he'll tell you the holes in the dents in some of the things around, because one of us would lose to the other at practice, and it gets pretty competitive.
Sure.
But, yeah.
Well, when you're at Findlay, did you realize what you wanted to do? Like you're playing football, you're watching your brother run down the street, you're going to class. Did you know what you wanted to do?
No, yeah. I mean, my parents were both working at a very early age, and my dad, when my parents had us, my dad was 19 and my mom was 18, I think. So, they didn't go to college. They started a family, and so we had nobody had went to college. We were the first ones. So when we went, in my mind, it was, I just want to play football. And, then you get there and you're sitting down with everybody about picking out a degree, and it's like, I loved, physical education was always, and like, I always loved the weight room. Mm-hmm. So I chose, but I didn't choose the right one. The band that I took was strength conditioning / physical education, but it wasn't like the educational piece.
Okay.
But I enjoyed the weight room, and by the time, so after I had started college, my advisor had retired, and then I kind of got lost in the shuffle. And he handed me to another strength conditioning guy, so he just did his job and carried me down that path. But when everybody was starting their student teaching, I was like, oh, why am I doing that?
Oh no!
So then I found out it was like not the teaching piece, and it wasn't a big deal because again, I was just there to play football, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then when I got done playing, and I had my degree in strength conditioning and personal training, and then I was like, oh, what do I do now? Well, I love to coach. I want to stay around the game. Mm-hmm. So I GA'd for Dan Simmerl and for 2 years, and that's a tough job.
Yeah.
When you're having to do all that stuff for nothing, really, other than grad school, getting paid for, which is great. But when I got done, the kind of reality set in of if I wanted to stay in college coaching, and you see guys who even coached, for us, but maybe got let go or had to move on, and it's like, where are they moving on to? Oh, I'm going to go over to South Carolina, and like I said,
Missouri,
even with
just moving everywhere.
And it's like, even when I said not going to West Point, I'd never left Northwest Ohio, so I thought, I would love to find a place that I don't have to worry about moving every 4 or 5 years if things don't go well. So I contacted Roger Frank, and I said, anybody looking for an O-line coach? And he put me in touch with Matt Kriegel. And,
oh, wow.
And I've been here ever since.
Yeah. When were you able to, was grad school when you were able to do your student teaching? Because you left the part out, but I was like, wait, when did you do it, or what happened?
No, actually, I didn't. So
okay.
I got my, because they didn't have a master's in strength conditioning, so I actually got my master's degree in education while I was GAing, but I didn't have my undergrad in it. It was called physical education, but it wasn't the educational piece.
Okay.
So not until I got hired in 2007, and then Mike Short had given me a job in the high school. and gave me some other things to do because I did have my master's in education.
Yeah.
But then when I got riffed with the budget stuff in 2010, I actually went back to school in 2010 through 2012 and finished everything.
Oh, okay.
Got my teaching license as well as finishing up my administrative stuff, so I could be, principal, assistant principal as well, because I already had my master's. So I got all that done then, and then fortunately for me, a job came available in 2013, and I was able to become a phys ed teacher.
Yeah, man, that is a lot of school.
Yeah. So yeah,
Really
I didn't realize really how much past my master's. And then I as I was kind of preparing for this, getting everything around for Eastwood, and I was like, wow, I have my master's plus like, I couldn't even tell, like 50 or something. It's like, I cannot believe I went to school that much. You got to give me I got to be a doctor, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. Because I mean, I say it, and most teachers are like, yeah, that's just normal, right? You just do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But me, I was like, I got my 2-year degree, and I'm like, see ya. I'm not doing any more classes. I do these, I do some trainings every once in a while. I get certificates. The hardest test I ever took was to be a certified playground inspector.
Yeah.
And I got to do that every 3 years, and it's like a 3-day thing. But like, I can't imagine. Even when I was at UT for 7 years, and I could have taken classes for free, and I'm like, that's a lot.
Yeah, I tell myself I'm never going to go take another class again. But I think listening to you talk about that test you took for the playground, this past summer, I went and took my CDL class.
Yeah.
To drive a bus now. So I've been doing that as well. So I guess you never really, and I always thought that you never stop learning anyway.
Yeah.
But as far as classes go, I hope I'm done with those.
Yeah.
We'll see.
A lot, and hopefully a lot of those are like, hey, we're just meeting at the most, like we're meeting once a week for the next 8 weeks or something, as opposed to like, all right, here's the first semester stuff,
Yeah, every day, 3 hours, or every other day, 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
I ain't got that time anymore.
No, and especially with kids.
Yeah, right.
So you talked about getting hired by Coach Kriegel, and what was it like coming in? Because you coached besides being a GA, you didn't coach at any other level of football,
Nope.
right?
Yep.
So was there like a big difference for you coming from college to high school and trying to figure out like how to coach high school kids or how to coach in general down here?
I've been here so long, I don't really remember that transition as much. But to me, it's not a huge difference. If the difference would be is the younger kids. So, the kids that are, 18, 19 into college were much different than getting those 15-year-olds, coming into high school. But mentally, it wasn't the change because I was coaching the same thing then. With those guys, it was the physical aspect of then trying to, because Matt also let me run the weight room, which obviously was a passion of mine. So really, it was ultimately then about how to get those guys, because that was a piece I didn't have to worry about in college. They had a strength coach, and but then I was thinking, all right, how do I get these guys that are 15 to progress in the weight room to, make them better football players and athletes, because obviously Matt and I both agree, to play, baseball, basketball, wrestling, and get those track and get those other sports in.
Yeah.
So how to make them better athletes, is probably the biggest change for me as coaching goes.
Yeah. And some of those kids you see as a freshman, like, because we talk about it, like, I don't know where this person's going to fit in, or maybe might be a special teamer by the time his senior year, and then senior year rolls around, and he's been started for 2 years, and he's an all-league player. And you're like, man, how did that happen?
And those are great stories.
Yeah,
that those kids, because I mean, especially as big as Perrysburg is getting, and it's like you spend all this time with these kids, and you get that relationship, and you have so much love for them, and you would love to see them all be on the field and being successful and getting these all league, whatever, all the stuff that comes with that. But it's just not possible, and you can't do that. So that is hard. And, it's what sometimes I think parents get angry at a coach, but it's like, it's hard for me too, but I also have a job to do. And this is just kind of the way that it goes is, the best 11 are going to be on the field. And I would love for things to be different and us to be able to have 6 different teams, so everybody gets, a chance to get out there. But it doesn't. But when you see those kids that you don't know, it's like, oh man, he's 4th right now, and the guys in front of him are younger. I don't know how he's gonna, he's such a hard worker. I don't know how it's gonna pan out. And then you see, this past year, Brock Falkenstein. It's like, where's he going to be at? He works his butt off. He's a yes or no sir kid, but he's got some big dudes in front of him that are athletic, which is a big change from how Perrysburg has grown from when I was here in 2007. Some of those guys come back. It's like, holy moly, this is your offensive line. It wasn't like this in 2007.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a guy that he's like, how's it going to work out? And then, senior year, and he takes the bull by the horns, and he was all those, all league,
all the
and
accolades,
the district stuff. And, I don't follow that stuff as much because I just love coaching those guys. But, it's good for them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they love it. I loved it when I was in high school. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I still got a trophy just in my garage. I looked at it the other day. I was cleaning. I was like, "Oh, this thing's still around." It's like falling apart and stuff. I told my wife, I was like, "I don't know, what am I supposed to do with this? This thing's 20 years old. I don't know." Like,
that's my wife. Every now and again, her my mother-in-law will bring her something like a plaque or a trophy or something, and she's like, "Where am I going to put this? What am I going to do with this?" But yeah, you have all that stuff, and
yeah. But you brought up a good point when you're talking about Brock. I was talking to Pete Smith, Mitchell Smith's dad, right? And I was talking to him. His younger son plays in the same league. Mateo plays in it for baseball. And I always ask about Mitchell.
And Mitchell was another one too.
Yeah, that's why I bring him up. Like I even told to this day, I just told him the story 2 days ago. To this day, I was telling his dad, I remember coaching him as a freshman, and I had to replace him in the starting lineup because he just wasn't doing well. And I was like, which happens, it sucks. We talked about it's just not something you have to do, but it's for the betterment of the team.
Yep.
But what digs me all this time is I was a new coach, and what I neglected to do was explain to him why I'm doing this. So he went home and it's like, yeah, coach replaced me, but I don't know why. He didn't tell me. So I think his parents emailed or called, and they're like, we understand what's happening, but he doesn't because you didn't tell him. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. That was just something. So I told him that 2 days ago. I was like, it still tears me up, but I asked him about it because he used to, almost not really care about school. He wasn't a really good student. And then as he got older in the high school, he got really better. And his dad, every time I talked to him, he's like, yeah, he's on the dean's list. He's doing really good. He was the only freshman lineman to travel with Heidelberg. He's taking a lot of the first reps this spring,
That's why I love coaching this age. To see those kids mature.
Yeah.
I even talked to Scott Bucher about this because there's some kids that leave HPI, and I'd be like, oh, man, they drove me nuts. And he'll be like, but he'll say, they 7th, especially 8th grade, they mature so much. And then I'll see them maybe when they're a freshman in high school or their 8th grade year, and it's like, wow, they did. Yeah. And then you see that even some kids that'll do that in high school. And, Mitchell, I remember, him and I'd show him, we'd be like, watch a film. He's like, Mitchell, I know you got more than this. What are you doing? Because I am that guy, like, whether he's doing his job for me, when I see him on scout team, it's like, well, if he's going to do that on scout team, I'm not sure how he's going to pan out. In the future, and he would, take plays off and stuff. But then he hit somewhere in there that maturity, and he grew. And then, by the time he was his senior year, even from his junior to his senior year, the progress that he made. And then, next thing you know, you're watching, he's knocking people over and kind of found that some aggression because, he was a kind dude too. So it's like, hey, Mitchell, get angry. It's all right to be, when that was, you can be angry then, and then help the dude up. It's okay, But yeah, he's another one that has done a great job.
Yeah, it like you said, it is fun to see that part of it. And if you're coaching any length of time, you're always going to have those types of stories. Right?
Yeah, you have the dudes that come up, like a Cade or Grant Zimmerly that you just know are going to be like, they're going to be good. Yeah, but you don't get 5 of those.
Yeah,
and then you got, all right, so who's going to kind of rise to the top in these other groups to kind of make up these 5 and those that's just another fun thing, Yeah. But again, like we were saying earlier, it's not. It's fun to see that, but it's also tough because you have some kids that are, I'll have 30 guys in my group, because they ain't fast enough. They'll get, come down to the linemen. But that's why I always say we're the best athletes on the field. But you have some guys that don't get out there, and it's like, man, they work so hard. Looking this past year, Jack did a great job, and he could have gone in there, and he did. When Cody got hurt, and he could go in, and we wouldn't really lose much of a step. But he maybe could have started on any other team in the league.
Yeah.
But,
because we always start the season when we talk about who we got, and more times than not, I always feel like, well, we got 4. You know, all right, who's going to be that fifth? Or we have 5, and if someone goes down, but then as the season progresses, you know, then you run into like Jack. You know, like okay, so we have 6. You know, we can
Noah
fill someone
and
in.
those guys, and they could go in there, and we still function, and that just showed how much they came together as a group and pushed each other, and you know, and then it makes my job tough to like, all right, who's the best 5? And then but you're gonna like, all right, well, at least if somebody does go down or needs a break, it's like you don't lose anything.
Yeah, because I'm sure there was those years where it was terrifying. Like, okay, we have 5 or 4.5.
Yeah, remember the year we had to move Clay Densdorf from, he was started the year at a tight end, I think, and then he was a tackle, played tackle for me and tight end, and then ended up being the quarterback.
Yeah,
and
that was sometimes they're just lean years, right? Yeah. We've both only coached for 2 head coaches, and I've had great experiences with both of them. You know, they're real good at letting you coach. Was Coach Kriegel always like that, even when he was younger? Because sometimes younger coaches can have a mindset of like, well, I got to have my fingers in everything. But I feel like Coach Kriegel has always been like, I'm hiring you to coach. You're going to coach.
Yeah, you know? When I got here, he was. Now, it was probably a little different for me because Coach Kriegel was also an offensive lineman. I think he liked to come down and play with us a little more than maybe other groups because he had that passion for offensive line. But he, you know, he would never step on my toes or anything. He always let me coach. He just liked to come down and put in his words because he loved it so much. But I say that, but I also was only with my group, so maybe he was going down and showing them wide receivers how to break out of their stance or showing the running back how to take the snap, you know, or take the ball from the quarterback. So maybe he was doing that, but I just could tell his passion because he was an offensive lineman in college.
He did come down. I remember when I was gone on a Thursday night practice in the summer. I was probably coaching my kid doing something, and he's like, "Well, we worked on blocking." I'm like, "Yeah, of course." All right, thanks. And then so I was like looking at the drill, and it was a drill. You know, if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it the rest of the year, right?
Yeah.
So that's something we did.
Actually, I think I remember that.
Yeah,
I just remember that. We worked on blocking.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, of course you did.
It was good. It was good. But I think we've been pretty lucky with who our head coaches have been. Like I said, we've only had 2.
Yeah.
But it's been good because there are some coaches who are, and I don't, like I said, I don't know what other head coaches, but there are head coaches who can be like, all right, you're the offensive line coach. It needs to be done this way, exactly like this. Do these drills.
Yeah.
But then it's just not as fun though.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's what. I never. Like you said, I've only had 2, so I don't know how other coaches are. Mm-hmm. But if that's the case and other coaches are like that, we've definitely been blessed and guys that just let us coach.
Yeah.
Now, there's been times where, they might put something on there. Maybe they had guys, maybe Matt didn't have guys who knew, as much about it as what some have in the past.
Yeah.
So he would put some stuff on there, some basic stuff, but did not police like, hey, you know what your position, you know what your guys need to do.
Yeah.
Do that. I think he was just putting that on the schedule. Just, if you needed something, hey, work on these things. But it just gave us and Dirk's the same way, hey, your guys, you're with them every day. Mm-hmm. You know what you need to work on. So
it's also good. It's also good. Like, hey, these are the things we have to achieve, but I'm letting you decide how to achieve those things. Right.
Yeah. I liked it because it was honestly, the way things have been done were no different than what I did in college.
Okay.
Other than not having that annoying bell out there at college every 5 minutes would ring, so you kind of knew where you were at in practice.
Yeah.
Whereas we just kept the time in high school, but the structure was the same. And even as a coach, I would come in. When I coach actually tight ends when I was at Findlay, but I would come in and write in my practice schedule. Mm-hmm. And so you come in at a certain time and then they would make copies of it. So everybody had the master copy, but no different than we come into practice and Matt or Dirk gives you the practice schedule and you write in what you're going to do during your individual time. And then you have, group and team. And it's just same structure.
When you got the job at Eastwood, first of all, what drew you to say like, hey, I'm going to go apply to Eastwood? Because you had applied at other places that we talked about, but what drew you to Eastwood specifically?
I think the distance, I took a bus trip there and it was only ended up being like a 15-minute drive and straight from the country. Mm-hmm. And I think being from a small area, the country aspect, I've loved my time in Perrysburg, with your field right by I-75, but there's something different about when you grow up walking out to a field surrounded by cornfields, or just nothing around you, just pretty much this dark hole with lights. And when I thought about Eastwood, that attracted me to that blue collar country, tough. So yeah, I just let's give it a shot and see what happens. And funny, I when I emailed the administration, and I did it pretty early. I said, hey, full disclosure, I am from Elmwood. So, but here's my stuff. If you'd like to look at it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Well, you guys have a new athletic director too, which is funny. I just saw him at the Perrysburg baseball game for Coach Hall. So I didn't know he was going to be athletic director too. So he was like, yeah, I was all part of that too. I was like, oh man, that's cool. So now there's 2 Perrysburg guys going over there.
Yeah, and then the extra funny story is we live right behind each other. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So. He actually brought me this shirt.
Oh, nice.
And he texted me one time and said, hey, I got a shirt for you. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll stop over. So, right around the block, and there he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess if I need anything or he needs to yell at me, he can always just come on the front yard and yell at me. But
what are you excited for most? Like what? Because I know like right now you're learning the kids, and you're probably doing weight room stuff, and you're trying to. I'm assuming interviewing coaches, trying to find assistant coaches. What are you?
I think being around the kids right now it's a struggle because I'm working at Perrysburg, and one of those beautiful things about a small school is those kids are all in sports.
Yeah.
So. When they do lift, it's in the morning,
okay,
which is a struggle for me because HPI starts at 7:30, so I can't get there in the mornings, and to go after school, there's not a whole lot of guys there.
Yeah.
And I'm swamped with T-ball and stuff, so I'm just looking forward to the summer and being around the kids and teaching them something new. They've ran the wing tee for so long, and I love the spread, so I'm excited, and they're excited, which makes me even more excited.
That's going to be a huge change.
Yeah. So, it's definitely going to be tough, but...
Well, you went through here in Perrysburg, right? I mean, because we ran wing tee for so long, and then Coach Creel came and changed that.
Yeah. But they had a year in by the time I got here.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
Matt started it in 2006 when he took over, and then, so they had that year, but, I guess I wasn't around for that first year transformation, so I'll see it at Eastwood, teaching it to see how quick these guys can get it, but that's what I'm most looking forward to.
That's cool. Yeah, and
I got to meet them a couple weeks ago, so it'll just be nice to be able to be around them and build those relationships.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about the fact that you were a head coach. You were the head coach of Perrysburg Wrestling for several years. So that's that shouldn't be lost on anybody too. Like, hey, this isn't a guy that's been offensive line coach for 16 years. He was also that plus a head coach. He has head coaching experience.
Yeah, and a lot of that is the the busy work that you got to do with the scheduling and the getting everything ready with the weight room, the plan, and
parents,
a lot more parents, and scheduling a meeting, making sure they're all on the same page, and but also trying to put together your staff because obviously I get more assistant coaches than what I was allowed in the wrestling.
Yeah.
So trying to figure that out. And with wrestling, you can have, all right, I've got a bigger guy that can wrestle the bigger guys. I got a smaller guy, but with football, you got, all right, I need a guy that knows something about receiving and knows something about running backs. And so, it brings those difficulties. But as far as the structure of the program, make sure everybody's on the same page.
And I heard you took another Perrysburg guy with you. Or I don't know if he's on your staff or if he's just in Scrappy's going over there.
Yep, Scrappy's coming over, so he works for Eastwood.
Yep, he works there and coaches baseball there.
Yep. So I reached out and see, hey, do you want to continue to coach these guys? So the structure of our program will probably be a little different than Perrysburg because we only get so many stipends. So and the kids, there's only so many kids. So I don't know what the numbers are going to look like now, but what I foresee is Scrappy's going to help us out. Probably varsity receivers, but also be the freshman coach.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So we'll all be together and then probably break up during like team time so they can work with their individual classes and teams.
Yeah.
So that's what I see now.
Yeah, I remember talking to him when the Perrysburg job came up, and I remember talking to him like, hey, I'm going to put in for this. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it would be nice if we obviously I was the wide receivers coach at the time. I was like, so I'll need another one if I get hired. So I asked him if he wanted to do. He's like, he was all about it, you know. So I'm excited for him too, because like you said, everything's Eastwood right now for him except where he lives.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's perfect. It was a natural fit for him to be over there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be nice to have somebody, a couple guys that I know. Obviously, my brother's coming with me.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, Rick Desdorf's going to help out.
Oh,
Who's
nice.
here for years and, obviously has been around the game for years.
Yeah.
So
I like Rick. I need to get him on the podcast too. He'd be good one to talk to.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys you have to really know, especially like let's say you're a high school student and you're not in at the time he was coaching linebackers and tight ends, and you're not in his group. You just hear him and see him. You're like, man, I don't want to do anything about that guy, right? I don't want to be a part of that. Yeah. But once you get to know him, and he's a real good teacher, not just like to the kids, but I would always ask him questions. And I even think I went over there. I went to his house, just me and him, and we were talking about the offense, because I just wanted some more ideas, or he was like, hey, if you ever become a head coach, these are the things that I would focus on. Like he's a real good teacher, real good guy to learn a lot of stuff from.
Yeah, he's been around the game for a long time.
Yeah.
So he gets it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Sam, I don't want to keep you too long, but because I know you have to get out of here. But there's one more thing we have to do. It's a new thing. So I'm trying to get more traffic to my YouTube channel. Okay, so I'm almost at 100 subscribers, which my kids make fun of me for. But I can't help that they listen to people that have millions of subscribers. There's nothing I can do about that. So what we're going to do, I have this box here. It's a game, okay?
I can subscribe for you. You just got to tell me how to do it, because I don't know all this stuff, man. That's what I hear about stuff about, like the YouTube or a YouTuber, or they call them, and I'm like, what's a YouTuber? And like, oh, they have people following them. Like, I don't know. I follow you on Apple Podcasts. I didn't know it was different.
Yeah, so you can subscribe just like anything else.
Okay.
All you got to do, if you have a YouTube account, you got to have an account, just like anything else. You have a Spotify account or an Apple account.
Yeah, I think I have one, like the school or whatever.
Yeah, so all you do is hit subscribe, and then
my kids usually just watch Disney songs. But
all it does is, let you know. And sometimes it doesn't always do that. It lets you know like when new videos come out.
Okay.
Right? So what we're going to do here, this is going to be a YouTube only segment, but people here and people listening will hear the questions, and then they'll have to go to YouTube to find the answers. So pick any card out of here. This game is called Let's Get Deep. So there's 3 sets of questions. There's icebreaker, there's deep, and deeper. So pick anything you want out of there. We'll read the question, and then they'll have to go to YouTube to find the answer.
Right.
Here, I'll get it for you. All right. So here's the question. Again, Sam, we'll end the podcast with this question. But again, I appreciate you coming out here. We didn't talk about this, but I really enjoyed like our conversations we would have. Nice at practice before games. Like it was just it was fun to talk to you, and we could be real with each other. And so I ain't gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss you being out there, but I'm really excited for you to be at Eastwood.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me on. And yeah, I mean the relationships that you build, especially I didn't know how long I was here until when Matt had stepped down and they had said how many years he had been the head coach.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh wow, I got here a year after him, so I've been here for at that time it was 15 years.
Yeah.
Like I never had a commitment that long. And
yeah, man.
Yeah, so and now it's been an extra 2. So, but yeah, the relationships that you build, and I've had so much fun here, and I'm not going far. So,
yeah.
I want to stay in touch with you guys. So,
well, we plan on tailgating at BGSU for their homecoming every year now, because last year was so much fun. So we'll definitely have to see you up there.
Yeah, maybe we'll get one of them Toledo BG games and see a couple guys
for
going
sure.
at it. That'd be nice.
Yeah. All right. So here's the question. This is actually, you pulled a deeper question. So this is the deepest level we can get.
Uh-oh.
What sacrifices have you made in your life? So that's the question. If you want to see, when you want to see his answer, go over to the YouTube page, and that'll be the video there. Again, Sam, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for downloading that great episode with Sam Cotterman, new head football coach at Eastwood High School. It was, like I said, it was a great conversation. Learned a lot about him. The fact that he likes to bake. I don't know if I knew that, like you said. So that was cool. Just everything dealing with going to college, hanging around with his brother. That's such a great relationship. Like I said in the podcast, when you can just be with your brother all the time, and call each other idiots, but still get things done. So it was great hearing about that. And obviously, check out the YouTube only segment. You heard the question. Again, the question here, I'll repeat it. What sacrifices have you made in your life? He had a great answer, so please check that out on the YouTube page. Subscribe everywhere. If you just listen, subscribe to whatever you're listening on, whatever service you use. That helps us out here at the podcast. Obviously, I'm looking for more YouTube subscribers. I'm close to 100 there. I'm close to 20,000 downloads for the entirety of this podcast, so that's pretty exciting too. Got some big numbers, milestones that I'm reaching here. So help me out with that whenever you get a chance. As always, thanks to Fort Meigs CrossFit. You want any information about any classes they have to offer, check out fortmeigscrossfit.com. And as always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Big Daddy Graphics, and Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab for always helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.